On February 24, 1944, in the mud-choked roads south of Cisterna, Italy, the rain-soaked silence of the battlefield was broken only by the distant crackle of artillery as American tankers from the 1st Armored Division approached the hulking, smoke-blackened carcass of a German Elefant tank destroyer. A monstrous 70-ton behemoth that had finally surrendered to its own mechanical failures rather than enemy fire, the crew having abandoned it after an engine fire rendered the steel giant immobile. These seasoned American tankers, men who had battled German armor from the burning deserts of North Africa to the rocky heights of Sicily, examined this war machine with awe and disbelief as they traced their hands along the deep scars where countless American shells had struck its 200mm frontal armor and simply bounced away harmlessly. But the real shock came when they circled to its flanks and rear and made a discovery so strange, so counterintuitive, that it defied their entire understanding of German armored doctrine. This massive tank destroyer, with its colossal armor protection and its terrifying 88mm gun capable of destroying tanks 3 kilometers away, had almost no machine gun defenses, only a single forward-firing ball-mounted MG, fixed in place, unable to traverse, unable to defend the sides or rear. A shocking oversight for a vehicle expected to fight in the close, chaotic reality of frontline combat. The veterans immediately recognized the implication, for they had spent years learning the hard way that all German tanks, from the smallest Panzer II to the formidable Tiger, bristled with machine guns for repelling infantry, yet this Elefant stood defenseless against even a lone soldier with a grenade. A flaw so profound that it instantly confirmed the intelligence reports streaming in from the Eastern Front, where Soviet infantry had exploited this vulnerability with ruthless precision, revealing that the Ferdinand, later renamed Elefant, represented a paradox in engineering, a triumph in long-range killing power and armor protection paired with a catastrophic blindness to practical battlefield realities, a blindness rooted in its strange birth during the 1942 heavy tank competition when Ferdinand Porsche, confident that his revolutionary electric drive tank design would win Hitler's approval, ordered 100 chassis built before trials even began, only for his prototype to fail catastrophically in mud tests and mechanical reliability, losing the contract to the more conventional and far more dependable Henschel design that became the Tiger I, leaving Porsche's expensive, complex chassis without a purpose until German High Command, unwilling to waste such massive industrial investment, converted them into heavy tank destroyers by shifting the engines forward, installing a massive fixed rear casemate, and mounting the devastating 88mm Pak 43 halves L/71 cannon, one of the most powerful anti-tank weapons ever created, a gun capable of penetrating virtually any tank in the world at extreme range. But even as this weapon gave the new Ferdinand unprecedented long-range lethality, the design inherited massive complications, for its twin Maybach engines, originally intended for much lighter vehicles, strained hopelessly under the 65-ton weight, the complex electric transmission overheated and malfunctioned, the suspension, missing return rollers to simplify production, suffered extreme track wear, and the entire machine became a temperamental, maintenance-devouring monster whose mobility was so limited that even moderate inclines caused overheating, a problem that would haunt the Ferdinand throughout its combat life. Nevertheless, 91 units were produced and assigned to heavy tank destroyer battalions 653 and 654, spearheading the northern assault at the Battle of Kursk in July 1943, where Hitler, believing that new wonder weapons like the Panther and Ferdinand would restore German dominance, launched Operation Citadel despite Soviet forces having constructed defensive works so extensive that they represented the largest fortified zone in human history, including over 500,000 mines, anti-tank trenches, interlocking fields of fire, and layered infantry positions. But initially the Ferdinands performed with terrifying effectiveness as they advanced behind the opening artillery barrage. Soviet tank crews reported their shells bouncing off the Ferdinand's 200mm armor like pebbles thrown at a fortress wall, and the Ferdinand's 88mm guns ripped apart T-34s and KV-1s long before the Soviet crews even knew where the shots were coming from. Yet this early dominance evaporated quickly once their advance reached the minefields. Powerful Soviet anti-tank mines detonated under the tracks, bending them, shattering road wheels, tearing at suspensions, and immobilizing dozens of Ferdinands within hours. Vehicles far too heavy to be easily recovered, especially under relentless Soviet artillery. And while German recovery crews struggled to save them, Soviet demolition squads crept out at night, using satchel charges and grenades to destroy abandoned vehicles, while across the trenches Soviet infantry began developing tactics specifically tailored to the Ferdinand's fatal flaw, the absence of machine gun coverage. They allowed the Ferdinands to roll past their trenches before emerging behind them, striking at vision blocks with anti-tank rifles, smashing tracks with explosives, and finally finishing them with Molotov cocktails tossed onto engine grills, flames seeping into the engine compartment and filling the crew space with smoke, leaving the Ferdinand's trapped crew choking inside their armored oven with no way to engage the infantry attacking from all sides, their limited optics and lack of close-quarters weapons turning them into helpless targets. Some crews attempted desperate improvisations, even firing MG-42s through the barrel of the main gun or opening hatches to fire pistols, but these measures were useless against swarming infantry, and by the time Hitler cancelled Operation Citadel on July 12, half the Ferdinand force was out of action not because Soviet tanks had defeated them, but because mines, breakdowns, and infantry had rendered them immobile and vulnerable, proof that the Ferdinand was devastating only in its ideal role of long-range defensive combat, but disastrously unsuited for breakthrough operations. After Kursk, surviving Ferdinands were recalled for major upgrades including a Hull MG-34, improved commander's cupola, Zimmerit anti-magnet coating, and better engine protection, but these additions added even more weight, bringing the total to 70 tons without improving the underpowered engines, creating a vehicle even more sluggish than before, yet Hitler still believed in its potential and ordered its official renaming to Elefant on May 1, 1944. Soon after, 11 modified Elefants were rushed to Italy, where the rugged, narrow, ancient roads around Anzio, flanked by steep mountain paths, proved disastrous, as bridges collapsed under the vehicle's weight, engines overheated attempting steep climbs, transmissions failed constantly, and any breakdown blocked entire roads, turning the Elefant into both an asset and a logistical nightmare. And when Elefant 102 was abandoned due to engine fire, American engineers swarmed it, confirming the same weaknesses the Soviets had found months earlier: extremely limited visibility, a single forward MG arc, chronic mechanical fragility, and impractical weight, leading American tankers to develop a simple doctrine: never engage the Elefant from the front, attack from the flanks or rear, call artillery or air support, or simply wait for the inevitable breakdown. As the war dragged into late 1944 and 1945, the remaining Elefants on the Eastern Front fought defensively in Ukraine, Poland, and finally around Berlin, where they were effective in stationary ambush roles but far too few and too unreliable to influence the outcome, and by the end of the war only 2 Elefants survived intact, one captured at Kursk now displayed in Kubinka, Russia, and one captured in Italy residing at Fort Gregg Adams in Virginia, a testament to the paradox of this machine, a tank destroyer that, on paper, possessed unmatched killing power and impenetrable frontal armor, yet in real combat proved disastrously vulnerable because German designers assumed ideal battlefield conditions that never existed, assuming infantry would always protect it, assuming terrain would permit its movement, assuming mechanical reliability that the electric drive system could never achieve, assumptions that Allied designers avoided by prioritizing mobility, visibility, reliability, and all-around defensive armament. And so the Ferdinand/Elefant, once envisioned as the pinnacle of German armored engineering, became instead one of the most cautionary examples in military history. Proof that the most powerful weapon is worthless if it cannot survive the battlefield, that heavy armor means nothing without situational awareness, that long-range firepower is irrelevant when infantry can creep close with a grenade, and that a steel giant designed for a perfect scenario can crumble instantly when exposed to the messy, unpredictable, unforgiving realities of war. lessons that shaped armored vehicle design for generations to come and ensured that the tale of the Ferdinand Elephant remains not just a story of engineering ambition, but of engineering failure, a monument to the danger of building a weapon for the war you want instead of the war you have.